sufficient reasons for separate questioning apart from the prosecution's examination in chief. Your Honor, in our view, Mr. Ruto, the legal representative, has provided sufficient reasoning. In paragraph 10 of his filing, he did say that this witness who is on stand will give evidence which will touch upon overall interest of the victims, and this because his evidence may also assist the chamber arriving at truth. Your Honor, in our view, if you're honestly minded to grant our application, we will question this witness about the personal harm this witness and his family have suffered during the post-election violence, Your Honor. And his story is the part of that truth, Your Honor, the part of the whole truth that we hope that Your Honorable Chamber will ascertain at the end of this case. And we do acknowledge the fact that this witness is not a dual-status witness. However, Your Honor, in terms of the personal harm this witness has suffered, the fact that this witness didn't register with the relevant database that we have doesn't erase the fact that he has suffered. It doesn't invalidate the pain he has experienced, Your Honor, during the post-election violence. And in our view, Your Honor, in this regard, the victim registration process is a matter of formality. Indeed, Your Honor, his accounts are representative of the personal stories of thousands of other victims who have suffered enormously during this violence, Your Honor. And the second question is, we gathered that from the Sun Defense response that common legal representative didn't provide an outline of areas for examination, Your Honor. But, Your Honor, we submit that if you have read carefully his latest filing, he did say that he wished to examine these witnesses along the similar lines that he examined prosecution witness P0536. In this way, Your Honor, he was referring to his early application that he made September of this year, where he applied, Your Honor, with Your Honorable Chamber to question some 5 dual-status witnesses. I have provided in advance a hard copy of that application, Your Honor. In that application, especially at paragraph 3, the legal representative lists more than a dozen of areas that he would wish to question dual status, at the same time non-dual status witnesses. In principle, all those areas will relate to the personal harm that either dual status or non-dual status witnesses have suffered personally. Your Honor, throughout the prosecution's examination in chief, we have carefully observed the conduct of the questioning, and the prosecution did ask some questions that we were initially planning to ask. So if you are honest mind to grant the application, we will leave out those questions. But there are other important areas that we wish to cover, which hadn't been sufficiently covered by the prosecution. Your Honor, my last 2 points. We would like to assure you that we will not ask repetitive questions, and our questions will solely relate to the personal harm this witness has suffered, and his family as well, and maybe some other issues which may impact upon the prospective reparation awards, Your Honor, if such awards are given to the victims at the end of the case, if, of course, the accused persons are found guilty. Lastly, I would like to conclude that, Your Honor, we will not take any longer time frame than that which is already had been given to the prosecution. We would need maximum 1.5 sessions, and we will try our best to finish it in 1 session. And we believe that granting our request will not unduly burden the proceedings and will not make it difficult for the testimony of this witness completed in a short time frame of this session, Your Honor. This concludes our submission, and if you honestly need further information, we would be willing to provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Katwa, you already made your submissions in writing. Do you wish to add anything else?
With your permission, Mr. President, just 3 things.
Can you do that in 1 minute?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay.
The first one is that we maintain the arguments we made in our filing. The second one, Mr. President, is that our filing was made before the prosecution conducted their conducted the evidence in Kyiv. And it is our submission that the evidence that was led by the prosecution covers even the areas that the victims' counsel intended to elicit. And for those reasons, Mr. President and Your Honors, we maintain that allowing the victims' counsel to ask questions to the witness will actually unduly burden the proceedings. Thank you, Mr. President and Your Honors.
Mr. Alexandra, you will take the submission?
Yes, Your Honor, please. Your Honor, we are, in fact, happy to leave it in the hands of the Chamber, but we just have a few observations to make. And firstly is that this is not a dual status witness, and perhaps cognizant of this fact is what led Mr. Omofade, we say, to sufficiently examine the witness on issues which the Counsel for Victims wishes to now ask questions on. And Your Honor, when it comes to balancing the interests before this Chamber, and we're looking at whether or not this witness should be allowed to go home this weekend, or whether to remain here and to be asked questions for another 1.5 session, which we say have been sufficiently covered, we submit that the balance, I think, lies in favour of the witness going home, Your Honor. But ultimately, we are happy to leave it in the hands of the Chamber.
Thank you. Mr. Steinberg?
Thank you. Very briefly, Your Honour. As we've said previously, the prosecution is generally in favour of encouraging the participation of the victims and the victims' representatives, provided sufficient interest has been demonstrated. Your Honours, whilst it would have been very nice if we could have finished this witness before the weekend break, we believe that if there is an interest which has been demonstrated, then the principle should not exceed or should not give way to expedience, and we do not oppose the application for these reasons. Your Honours, perhaps if I can just add to that, to the extent that the issues have already been covered to some extent by the prosecution, I would have thought that 1.5 sessions might be a little bit excessive, and I wonder whether my learned friend wouldn't be able to cover the matter in slightly less time than that.
The Chamber makes its ruling. Having considered the submissions of the Counsel for Victims and the submissions of Defense Counsel for both Mr. Sang and for Mr. Ruto, as well as the submissions of the prosecutor, the Chamber rejects the application. The Chamber notes that witness 535 is not a dual status witness, in the sense of being both a witness and a victim that is registered as such. And the reason for the registration has a purpose, and that purpose needs to be reflected in the proceedings. The Chamber is not satisfied that the testimony, to the extent that it has been outlined or indicated, will be distinguishable in principle from the testimonies of other previous witnesses who were victims but not dual status victim witnesses who have already testified. In those previous instances, the Counsel for Victim did not request to examine those other witnesses who were not registered as dual status. The legal representative has not advanced any distinct reasons as to why the questions should be asked by him in the circumstances. We also note in particular that the prosecution did cover the area of harm suffered by the witness. That was quite adequate for the purpose in the Chamber's view. For those reasons, the Chamber will not grant the request for separate questions to be asked on the matter. That is the ruling of the Chamber. We will bring back the witness for the counsel for Mr. Ruto to commence his cross-examination. Ms. Alekandra, we will hope and we will expect you to finish today.
Indeed, Mr. President, and will be so guided.
Thank you very much. The blinds will come down and the witness will be let in.
Nous sommes en audience publique.
Court officer, we are in open session, Your Honour.
Thank you. Witness, welcome back. The prosecution counsel has finished asking you his questions. It is now the turn of counsel for Mr. Ruto to ask you questions in cross-examination. I wish to refresh my advice to you given at the beginning of your testimony. For you to listen carefully to the questions, make sure you understand them before answering. If you do not understand the question, please indicate that you do not understand, as you have been doing, by the way. Also, try not to guess at answers to questions. Answer questions that you know the answers to. There's nothing wrong with somebody not knowing something. Just keep that in mind. So with that out of the way, Mr. Khan, is that you or is that Ms. Alekandra who will lead the questioning?
Your Honour, with the court's leave, it will be myself.
All right, please proceed.
Witness, my name is Kareem Khan, and I represent Mr. Ruto, who sits behind me. Now, you'll be glad to hear that hopefully we will finish with your evidence today. I will try everything so that by the weekend you can go back home. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honour.
And Your Honour, I know we have people in the gallery, but just for literally 1 minute, if we could go into private session.
A private session then.
Court officer, we are in public session, Your Honour.
Please proceed, Mr. Khan.
I'm grateful. Witness, I was thanking you for coming to give evidence, and what I want to ask you about at the outset is an aspect of your evidence to the prosecution. You, on various occasions, talked about members of the Kalenjin community and ODM. Do you remember giving answers talking about ODM and Kalenjin people?
Yes, Your Honour.
And am I correct, witness, that the North Rift area is rather cosmopolitan? People from all or many ethnic groups in Kenya reside in the North Rift region. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, Your Honour.
And witness, going to the 2007 elections, it's correct, is it not, that those elections were vigorously contested by the various parties in Kenya?
Yes, Your Honour.
Now, you talked a little bit about the ODM, the Orange Democratic Movement, that was led by Honourable Raila Odinga. The main opposition party that was in government at the time, in fact, was the party of the Honourable President Mwai Kibaki. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honour.
And that he led the PNU. Is that all right? Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honour.
And the PNU party in the North Rift area contained many Kalenjin people, didn't it?
Yes, Your Honour.
For example, sir, the PNU the PNU candidate for the Eldoret North constituency was Mr. Jonathan B. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honour.
Mr. B was and is a member of the Kalenjin community, correct?
Yes, Your Honour.
I'm grateful. And witness, likewise, the PNU candidate for the Mgwen parliamentary constituency was Mr. Stephen Tarus. That's right, is it not?
I didn't know.
Witness, are you aware that the PNU Rift Valley coordinator for the 2007 elections was a Kalenjin called Mr. Abraham Limo? Are you aware of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so it's fair to say that members of the Kalenjin community were very much invested, some of them were very much invested in the PNU political machinery in the North Rift. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And of course, we know that, witness, that you lost property and that there was a lot of suffering from members of all communities in Kenya in 2007. But am I correct that members of the Kikuyu community were killed? That's right, is it not?
It's right.
And similarly, members of the Kalenjin, Lua, Luya, and Kisi communities also suffered similar losses. That's correct, is it not?
Yes.
In fact, the tragic reality is that perhaps no tribe, no ethnic community in Kenya was untouched by the havoc that existed after the 2007 elections. Is that a fair assessment, witness?
Repeat your question, please.
Everybody suffered. Members of all ethnic communities suffered in the post-election violence in Kenya. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And witness, you described at one of the roadblocks that you encountered, that you described to the court.
Counsel, before you proceed, I noticed you're leaving the area of the last line of inquiry. When you asked questions about similar losses, I see that in line 9. It is something you may need to explain. We're questioning whether similar losses means losses that were similar in every respect, or whether the phrase similar losses related to your previous question in the sense of Kikuyus haven't been killed, meaning others were also killed.
I'm grateful. Okay. Witness, it's my fault. Let me try again. Am I correct that members of many ethnic communities were killed in the violence of 2007-2008 in Kenya?
Correct, Your Honor.
And members of this wide diversity of communities in Kenya also suffered property damage and displacement.
One question at a time.
Witness, in the North Rift area, many people from all communities were displaced. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And witness, you described to the prosecution that the voting itself on the 27th of December 2007 was peaceful. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You described a scene where communities had been living in peace, although tension increased in 2007 up to the elections. Is that a fair assessment of what was taking place in the North Rift and the area you lived?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, if you remember when the voting finished on the 27th of December 2007, you went home and you started listening to the results coming in. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And am I correct that even with 5 hours gone, with the very, very early results coming in, Raila Odinga was leading in the results that were being released by the ECK?
Counsel, can you rephrase?
Witness, are you aware, do you remember, let me start again, do you remember that right from the outset Raila Odinga was leading in the results that were coming in?
Yes, Your Honor.
And witness, I have videos if we need to get there, but do you remember that the day after the elections, on the 28th of December, by 5 p.m., Raila Odinga was leading, in fact, by almost 1 million votes. Do you remember that being broadcast on the radio or on television?
Yes, Your Honor.
And on the 29th of December, by midday, Raila Odinga was still leading, although by this time the lead had reduced to 300,000 votes. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
So it did come as a surprise, did it not, when the final presidential results were announced, proclaiming the Honourable President Kibaki as the victor. It was a surprise to many people. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And witness, you gave evidence that some of the anger and the emotion that you saw was accompanied by people saying, effectively, this cannot be right. Raila Odinga was leading. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Witness, do you remember the 2002 swearing-in ceremony of President Kibaki? Do you remember ever seeing any of that?
I do, Your Honor.
And witness, did you manage to see the 2007 swearing-in ceremony of the Honourable His Excellency President Kibaki?
Yes, Your Honor.
And witness, am I right that you also had the opportunity to see the swearing-in ceremony of President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President, Mr. Ruto, just this year?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it correct, witness, that there was a huge difference between the 2013 and 2002 swearing-in ceremonies for those presidents and what took place in 2007?
It's a very... It's a complex question. You will, even for me too, I think I know what you're trying to say, that we have a witness understand that we have to care about his own understanding of it.
Grateful.
Especially one that has been answering your questions uniformly in the positive. Think about rephrasing that. And by the way, at some point in this case, because this is for us, not just for the witness, the argument has been asserted by questioning repeatedly previous witnesses and now this one, that the final result was a surprise. And now you've mentioned 2002 and 2007 in your last few questions. I suppose that at some point we will be hearing evidence of the result trends in 2002 and 2013, in the sense that whoever was declared the winner was always the winner from day one, so as to create that difference that happened, or accentuated rather, in 2007.
Indeed, Your Honour, we'll bring a witness if we get to that stage to explain those issues. Witness, thank you for bearing with me. What I'll do, if you agree, is that I'll show you a video and then I'll put some questions and hopefully things will become clear. Your Honour, with the court leave, we will play Ken-D09-0026-0003. It's not very long, but I think it should be watched in full. So, witness, if you could be so kind as to look at your screen, and hopefully we'll play the video very shortly.
Just before we get that recorded clip, 5 years ago, the circumstances under which President Kibaki was sworn in for his second term were very different. Yesterday's swearing-in ceremony took place at State House, Nairobi, with cabinet ministers as key.
There seems to be some problem with the control being released from here. Perhaps the court officer, it'll be one video that I show today, perhaps the court officer could be so kind as to control it from his device. If he's so kind, I can repeat the ERN number, or EVD number. It's Ken-D09-0026-0003.
Just before we get that recorded clip, 5 years ago, the circumstances under which President Kibaki was sworn in for his second term were very different. Yesterday's swearing-in ceremony took place at State House, Nairobi, with cabinet ministers as key guests. Many of the ministers lost the parliamentary contests.
5 years ago, President Kibaki was sworn in a euphoric and charged atmosphere. Uhuru Park was packed with a united crowd of Kenyans celebrating what was termed as second liberation. It was Kibaki's day. Smooth sailing as his newly acquired presidential motorcade snaked its way into the city from his Muthaiga home. Kenyans, through a combined force of the then NAC summit, unanimously, so to speak, endorsed his victory. His main challenger in this year's general election, Raila Odinga, was standing by his side. This time round, Raila could only grumble and, with bitterness, watch from a distance as he thinks about his next options. Most Kenyans have chosen to monitor events from home, fearing being caught up in skirmishes that have rocked the country since the election day.
Na kutimiza wajibu
The Kibaki who was sworn in then with majority parliamentary seats on his side, this time takes the oath with a minority representation, with the biggest chunk of seats going to the opposition. While it was Moi facing the wrath of Kenyans on this day in 2002, this time round it appears to be Kibaki's turn, going by the reaction of members of the public and the opposition amid rigging allegations leveled against the government. Government supporters have, however, dismissed the allegations. Kibaki then enjoyed overwhelming support of the entire country. Uhuru Park was packed with dignitaries from different parts of the world. This time round, the ceremony was exclusive at State House, devoid of euphoria. Alex Chamwada, KTN.
Perhaps the screen can be kept on for a moment on the last frame. Witness, you've been shown a TV report from 2007 that was aired on the Kenyan television channel, and it showed flashbacks to the 2007 inauguration of the first term of President Kibaki. Did you see that? 2002. So did you see that? The flashback showing the 2002 swearing in of President Kibaki at Uhuru Park.
Yes, Your Honor.
Quite different from what was described as the subdued swearing in at State House in 2007. Would you agree?
Yes, I do.
Agree to what? Agree to what he saw on video, or agree that that was indeed his recollection of the events at the time?
Witness, would you agree with me that from watching that video, the swearing-in ceremony of President Kibaki, from what you could see on television, was far more subdued than the jubilation that was clearly apparent in 2002? Do you agree with me?
Yes, I do.
Witness, can you see right at the... If we could play... the tape, just let it run for a moment. I'm looking at the banner, Witness, at the bottom of the screen, and if you can just stop there. Witness, do you see there, sometimes it's called the ticker tape, or the banner at the bottom, it says in red, briefs, and then government, Raila Ruto have not been arrested. Can you read that, Witness? Can you see that, sir? Just on the bottom of the screen, just under KTN.
Yes, I do. I see it.
And do you remember rumours flying in Kenya just after the swearing in that Honourable Raila Odinga and Honourable Ruto had been arrested by the government? Do you remember hearing that?
Yes, I do.
And Witness, do you recall that very shortly after the elections there was a blanket ban on television broadcasts? The TV screens in Kenya went black, didn't they? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
Would you agree with me, sir, that the environment generated at that time massively escalated the tensions that existed in the country?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Witness, do you recall hearing reports from international observers and diplomats like the ambassador of the United States of America to Kenya and the European Union, expressing significant concern with what were termed widespread irregularities in the election process. Do you remember hearing people complaining along those lines?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And witness, do you remember hearing reports that in different parts of Kenya, that AP officers had been accosted and attacked by civilians because of suspicion that they were transporting ballot boxes stuffed with fake ballot papers? Do you remember that?
AP officers?
AP officers, indeed.
What is that?
Witness, is it correct? I'll put it in this way. An AP officer is an administrative police officer. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you recall at the time seeing on the news various reports that AP officers in different parts of Kenya had been accosted, sometimes attacked, and indeed killed on occasion, because they were suspected of ferrying stuffed ballot boxes? Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it was believed that the stuffed ballot boxes that they were ferrying were stuffed in favour of the Honourable President Kibaki. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, witness, we have an environment, do we not, in the immediate aftermath of the elections, where tension was high and rumour was spreading like wildfire. Is that a fair assessment? There was a lot of rumour about what lay in store.
Pardon your question, please.
Did you recall that in the period of the violence, let me put it differently, that during the violence in Kenya, there were many rumours that were flying about. A lot of guesswork.
Yes, Your Honor.
Indeed, are you aware that perhaps even on SMS there were all kinds of rumours that the Mungiki were going to enter the field, so to speak, and engage in violence? Did you hear about that?
Whose SMS?
Witness, did you ever hear that there were SMSs that were making the rounds, so to speak, saying that Mungiki were moving into the North Rift area?
I'm not sure of.
Did you ever hear rumours, witness, that Mungiki, members of the Mungiki gang, were going to take part in attacks against non-Kikuyus, including the Kalenjin? Did you hear such rumours?
Yes, Your Honor.
For the record, my question earlier was not who is SMS, but whose SMS, just to correct what appears on the transcript. But proceed, Mr. Kerr.
I'm most grateful, Your Honor. Witness, you voted in the elections, did you not?
I voted.
And you voted, if I could ask, you voted for a PNU president, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And witness, do you recall the candidates that stood for election in Eldoret North? It was William Ruto and Jonathan B. Is that right?
Correct.
Both were Kalenjins?
Yes, Your Honor.
And can I ask who you voted for?
Witness, you don't have to answer that question, but it's entirely up to you.
Yes, witness, if it caused any discomfort at all, please don't feel. I'm very happy to move on. It's completely up to you.
You can continue.
Well, witness, put it this way. If you exercised your vote for a Member of Parliament, you voted for a Kalenjin. Is that right?
Yes.
Witness, I'm going to ask you some questions now regarding location. Just bear with me one moment. Some questions about Huruma. You gave evidence in public regarding those general questions. Witness, are you aware of how Kenya is, put it differently, are you aware of how Uasin Gishu is organized administratively?
No, Your Honor.
Is it correct that Uasin Gishu is organized into 3 main districts?
Your Honor, I have to object. He said he's not aware of how it's organized.
Your Honor, I did hear the answer, but of course I'm entitled, I think, with your leave, to continue.
Objection is overruled. Proceed.
Witness, have you heard of the Eldoret North District of Uasin Gishu? Have you heard that phrase, that term? Eldoret North District.
No, sir.
Witness, have you heard the term Eldoret East District?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's an administrative district, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it's a district of Uasin Gishu, am I right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm grateful, witness. And similarly, have you heard of the Eldoret South District?
Yes, Your Honor.
Witness, have you heard of a division, a place called Turbo?
The last word I didn't have.
Have you heard of the Turbo division in Uasin Gishu?
I could like you to pronounce that word correctly. I'm not getting.
Tarbo, perhaps. It's spelled Turbo, but please forgive my terrible pronunciation if it's different.
Yes, Your Honor.
So sorry. You've heard of that place? And have you heard of a place called, a division called Soy?
Yes, Your Honor.
Similarly, Moiben, M-O-I-B-E-N, Moiben.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just three more, witness. You've heard of the Kapsaret Division?
Yes, Your Honor.
A division called KESSES, K-E-S-S-E-S, KESSES.
Yes, Your Honor.
And finally, witness, a division called AINABKOI, A-I-N-A-B-K-O-I.
Yes, Your Honor.
Am I correct, witness, that these divisions form part of the organizational structure in the districts of Uasin Gishu? They are...
Mr. President, I still have to object. He has said he doesn't know how it is organized, and counsel is repeatedly putting this assertion to the witness.
Overruled. Proceed.
I'm grateful. Witness, I think my last question was that are you aware that those divisions, those places I mentioned like Turbo and Kapsaret, form part of the administrative structure of Uasin Gishu? Are you aware of that, sir?
Now I'm aware of it.
Have you heard those places, those divisions being used when people are talking about the organization of government, so to speak? At the local level?
Pardon your question, please.
Have you heard of those divisions, like Kapsaret division, being spoken about when people are discussing the organization of local government, of local issues?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, witness, I want to ask you some questions. Witness, I want to ask you some questions regarding the Turbo division. Are you aware that under the Turbo division there is, so you've got Turbo division on the top, so to speak, and underneath it you have a place called KenyaMOJA, and that's called a location, the KenyaMOJA location. Are you aware of such a location?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you heard that beneath the KenyaMOJA location is a sub-location called Kapsaos, K-A-P-S-A-O-S.
Kapsaos. Hold that question. Hold it, please. Let us first establish that the witness's last answer, because I see that you asked a multiple question in there. Are we talking about his awareness of a particular location called KenyaMOJA? Was that it?
Your Honor, I was seeking to...
Or its relationship with another administrative unit? That's the double-edged, the double-barreled question. So let's settle it, strip it down.
I'm grateful. Witness, let me try again. You know a place called KenyaMOJA. That's right, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware that there is a location called KenyaMOJA, that there's an administrative area called KenyaMOJA, which is within the Turbo division? Are you aware of that, witness?
And, Mr.
And
President...
Your Honour, sorry, before my learned friend interrupts, I will say this is an issue of importance. The objections, of course, should be, and I always take it that my learned friend will object appropriately, but it should not be used as a device to prevent the defence eliciting key and critical evidence from a witness who is under oath.
I do not anticipate the ruling. Just let him make his objection and then we'll take it from there.
I'm grateful, Mr. President. Perhaps my learned friend ought to put a time frame to the questions he's asking. We know we're talking about incidents that occurred in 2007. We're in 2013, and this is all I ask my friend to do. I think it's only fair to the witness.
And I think there is evidence to the fact that there had been some sort of reorganization in the meantime, isn't it?
That's the publicly available information.
Yes. You see, Mr. Khan?
Well, Your Honour, I'd ask my learned friend just to refer me to the public information regarding that reorganisation in due course, but I will carry on. Witness, am I correct, looking at the events of 2007-2008, there was still a place called Calumet? That's an administrative area.
Yes, Your Honour.
And that administrative area, witness, came under the responsibility of the Turbo Division. Is that right?
I'm not sure of it.
Are you aware, witness, that under the Calumet location, and I'm sorry I have to pronounce it again terribly, there is a sub-location called Kapsaos, K-A-P-S-A-O-S, Kapsaos.
Yes, Your Honour.
And witness, am I correct that there is beneath Kapsaos? Your Honour, sorry, bear with me a moment.
Mr. Keegan Katwa, you can help your friend with some of the pronunciations, I'm sure.
I could, Mr. President. I think the word should be Kapsaos, Mr. President.
Your Honour, my learned friend is having far too much fun watching my terrible pronunciation. But witness, under the Calumet location, there's two sub-locations called Haruma and Kapsaos. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honour.
And there's a place called Malini, which is under Kapsaos.
Yes, Your Honour.
And witness similarly that under the Soy Division, there's a location called Kibulgeni. You've heard of that, have you, witness?
Yes, Your Honour.
And witness, you were aware of that location in 2007-2008. Am I right?
Yes, Your Honour.
And under witness, under the Kibulgeni location, there is a sub-location called Kilimani. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honour.
And witness, Kilimani itself is comprised villages, including a place called Kambi Thomas, Kambi Mwangi, Raiplai, 64 Stadium, Roadblock, and Pipeline. They all come under the Kilimani sublocation. Is that right, witness?
Yes, Your Honour.
And that was the state of play in 2007-2008, was it not?
Pardon your question, please.
Indeed.
And that was the organizational system that was in operation in 2007. Is that right?
not sure of it.
Witness, are you aware yourself of any change to the divisions or the division boundaries in Uasin Gishu since 2007? Are you aware if there's been any change, or you don't know?
I'm not aware of it.
So you're not aware there's been any changes?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm most grateful.
Again, so that there is no confusion on the assumption that the last question proceeded from the exchange I had with the prosecutor. I do not know if it was Mr. Hooper or if it was a prosecution that had indicated that had been change of name at the national level, regional level, that sort of thing. And that is what I was talking about, whether that had also permeated to the local level.
Your Honor, I'm grateful. I think the change...
It's not about down to the regional or local government level.
No, Your Honor, that was devolution on a political level rather than an administrative organisational change. And I think that took place in 2010.
Yeah, and the point was we do not know whether that had affected other things. So that was why it was important to put a time to your questions to the witness concerning these administrative divisions at a local government level.
Yes, Your Honor, and I can say, my learned friend will contradict me, there's no evidence that there's been any change since 2007 on the local administrative structure that I've already detailed. Now, witness, I'm going to move to another topic because I have 45 minutes left and there's a fair bit to do. I'm going to talk firstly about, if you look at the paper, sir, that the prosecution gave you, number 6, do you see the individual named at number 6?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'm going to ask you some questions about that person. And I think for that, at first instance, I would need to go into private session for a few minutes, Your Honor.
Private session. Do you have any indication of how many minutes?
Your Honor, I hope 3 or 4 minutes.
All right.
I'll do my best anyway.
We'll go to private session then.
Court officer, we're now in public session, Your Honour.
Thank you, witness. Now you've heard us. We are in public session. Mr. Khan, please.
I'm grateful. blood, gave him a blood transfer. Did you ever hear that?
No, Your Honor.
That person being a Kalenjin?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Khan, is there an ethnicity attached to the schoolboys, according to you, who attacked person number 6?
Your Honor, our instructions from person 6 is that it was a mixed bunch of Lua, Luya, Kalenjin, and even a couple of Kikuyus. And they were aged about 16 or 17, and maybe a couple of 18-year-olds.
So would you call 16, 17, 18-year-olds schoolboys in the sense you've led your questioning so far?
Your Honor, I was putting what the witness number 6, person 6, describes these individuals at, that they were schoolboys, and I was giving the witness, putting my case, or trying to, and giving the witness an opportunity to see whether or not those questions helped jog his memory about what he saw at the time or what he heard afterwards. That was I was attempting to do, Your Honor.
Fair enough.
I'm grateful. I'm moving on in any event. Are you aware, I think just one question on that, are you aware that person 6 is in fact, and was in 2007, a supporter of the ODM political party?
Pardon you, please, your question.
Are you aware that person 6 was an ODM supporter?
I'm not aware.
Are you aware that in fact person 6 campaigned for William Ruto himself in the 2007 presidential elections and local elections? He was a supporter of William Ruto. Are you aware of that?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, witness. Witness, I'm going to go briefly in the time allowed to a killing, the death of somebody you named, and his name is on number 10 of the document before you. Can you see that name, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I want to read something, it's one paragraph, that witness 6, person 6 says, and I want you to let me know if that helps refresh your memory. And person 6 states this: when I was escorting the 3 Luas, 2 boy and 1 girl that I had rescued, I saw a tall Lua man hit, and he gives the name that's person number 10, on the head with a stone. I saw him do it, and I confronted him and asked him why he did that. I pointed my gun at him and told him that I could also kill him. He panicked. If he was not a Lua, he was a Luya from Busia. I told him that it was a bad thing.
Mr. President, it's not quite clear what counsel is doing. Are we putting the testimony or a proposed testimony of a person who might or might not come before this court? Or are we putting on the record the account of someone who's already testified? If it's the former, then it's certainly not right.
Your Honor, I was endeavouring to put my question. The prosecution, of course, filed a motion that parties should put their case. And what I was seeking to do before my learned friend intervened was to put a account to the witness, to give this witness a chance to say whether or not it accords with his own recollection or whether or not it's disputed, and if so, give this witness a proper and full opportunity to say why he disagrees with it. Your Honour, it's 3 lines left.
Well, putting the case is a different matter entirely. And for the last 2 pages or so, Council has put the case. That's the proper way, we suggest, to do it. But to quote from documents that are not in the presence of any of us, from a person who may or may not have given a statement to the defence alone, is inappropriate, we suggest.
Mr. Khan, the question is this material that's already on the record?
Your Honour, it's not already on the record. Of course, in the defence, the prosecution, no doubt, would complain in a defence case if an individual came that gave a different account to a prosecution witness, if the witness hadn't been given an opportunity, at the very least, to accept it or reject it. And there's no prejudice at all to the prosecution. The witness is here. He can simply state, in my respectful submission, whether or not the narrative of person 6 accords to his understanding, or if it's false or wrong or inaccurate. And Your Honours will assess that at the end of the day.
Objection is sustained, Mr. Khan.
I'm grateful, Mr. President. Witness, are you aware that person number 10, in fact, was a... Your Honour, perhaps we go into private session just for a moment.
How long?
20 seconds, perhaps.
Right. Private session, then.
Court officer, we're in public session, Your Honour.
Mr. Khan, proceed, please.
Witness, you gave evidence about seeing various people on a hill, and you said that you saw person number 5, person number 1, and also person number 4 on the hill that you describe. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, Your Honor.
What was your distance from these people, witness? How far were you?
I'm not sure of the distance, but where I was able to see them.
You told the prosecution you were 500 meters away. Do you remember saying that?
I'm not sure of.
You say that the people on the hill that were around the three individuals I've just referred to were armed with bows and arrows. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it's fair to say you were at least an arrow shot away from these people. Is that right?
No, Your Honor.
You were closer than an arrow shot away.
No, Your Honor.
Were you further away than an arrow shot away, witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's the distance of an arrow shot?
Your Honor, just coming to that. Witness, it's correct, is it not, that a Kalenjin bow can shoot quite a distance?
I'm not sure of how distance can go.
Witness, can you give any estimate at all as to how far you were from that scene? You said 500 meters to the prosecution when you were interviewed, but what assessment would you give now? Can you give an assessment?
Just to correct the record, and I know it must be a mistake by my learned friend, this isn't the incident that he described with 500 meters. And I'm just correcting my learned friend.
Witness, you couldn't hear the three individuals speak from where you were, could you?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a way the question was asked, and then it got inverted at some point. Mr. Ken, can you put it in a more straight line, your question, so we know what he's responding to?
Witness, you were not able to hear what these people were saying.
Do you agree with that, witness?
Yes.
And am I right that you recognized their shape?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was it in fact more identification by shape than facial recognition? You couldn't see their face so clearly, but you recognized their body. Is that right?
No, Your Honor.
You say that...
Sorry. Are you saying no to what? Could you see their face clearly, or could you not?
You not see their face clearly, but you could identify who they were.
And you told the prosecution earlier, you told the court, I should say, earlier, that you thought that person number 4 was a leader due to that person's position, the position that person held. That's why you thought he was a leader. Is that right?
Pardon for your question, please.
The basis of you concluding that person number 4 was a leader was due to the position that he held. Is that right?
Well,
No.
Position held in the community?
Well, in government, if I can say it publicly, in government.
Now you've got the full question, witness. Can you answer it?
No, Your Honor.
And you say that you could also tell that this person was a leader because you could see him moving his hands. Is that right? By the signs of his hands. Is that why you concluded he was a leader?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if you go into private session, please, for 5 minutes, I hope.
Private session. I'm looking at the clock. So, and you did make a request about some submissions you said you wanted to make before we adjourn for the week, for the session, that is. Mindful of the clock. Let's go to private session.